Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this session. I hope everyone had a good day. I know I had a good day, and I'm really excited to be giving this talk. For those that don't know me, my name is Alan. I'm a DevTech MVP and an Azure MVP based in Cape Town. If you would like to contact me for whatever reason, my contact details at the bottom of the screen. The title of this talk is Automating Your Home or Office with IoT Central and Power Apps. But what is the session about? It's about home automation and automating and making your life better at home. But more specifically, it's how to leverage these four technologies: Azure, IoT Central, Power Automate, Power Apps, and Node-RED within the home automation space. What we will be doing in this talk is switching on my grow lights in my automated plant waterer and my aircon in my office. At the bottom is my house of this diagram. There's a gateway that's created with Node-RED. The reason for the gateway is I don't want to have every switch I have connected to the internet, and I want to have commands coming in that's routed to specific devices and not every device connected to the cloud. We're also going to look at connecting an air quality monitor to IoT Central. We're going to have a look at IoT Central, but the end goal is we're going to interact from Power Apps all the way through to my grow lights and aircon within my house. These are standard off-the-shelf home automation devices. They're Sonoff. They're quite cost-effective, but really they are Wi-Fi relays, which means they switch things on and off, and and you can send message to them over the network. They low-code. They low work. They're very easy to use. What's really nice about them is they support MQTT, which is a standard for transferring messages between devices. What I really like about these devices is they support a firmware called Tasmata, which is an open source firmware. It also disconnects you from the manufacturer's cloud and the services they want to provide, and it gives you the full power to do whatever you want to do with these devices within your own network. I really don't like home automation where my information goes to a cloud that I have no idea what's happening. So this is a very good way of disconnecting from the cloud, and it's open source. You can see what's happening in the firmware as well. You get off-the-shelf air quality monitors, but I really like this one. It's a hat that's you plug into a Pi Zero. It's quite comprehensive with the amount of sensors it's got on it. I haven't seen many devices that's got this many. You can measure temperature, pressure, things like light. It even has analog gas sensors to check what's in the air. So it really is an air quality monitor. It has a particulate matter sensor which checks sizes of particles in the air, which helps for allergies and things that irritate the lungs. What we have here is the Python version that's been written. It uses the IoT Central Python SDK, but there's SDKs for any platform. Right, so let's see how all this stuff works. Okay, so I'm going to head off to IoT Central. IoT Central is cornerstone is what's known as a device template. A device template tells IoT Central what your device looks like. So in other words, the capabilities of the device. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new template. I get an option here to create an IoT device or IoT edge device. And it gives me options here to choose and create out of the box templates. So these devices are available without any work. There's also what's known as IoT plug and play. So like Windows plug and play makes things easy to plug devices into Windows. There's also IoT plug and play, which makes it easy to plug IoT devices into things like IoT Central as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an IoT device. I'm going to go next. And then I'm going to create this Pimoroni environment monitor. Okay, so I'm going to go create. It gives me the option to create a model. So this model I can manually create, but I have a model already. It's basically a JSON definition of how the device works. So if I go and have a look at this this device, what we see here is all those properties that I said this environmental monitor can do in the telemetry it offers. So here we've got temperature, pressure, humidity. So these are actually the fields that would be passed in. So in other words, this is also a data contract that you have between the device and IoT Central. And you can then specify the types and the schema definitions you can use, and of course the units of the telemetry too. So capability types, there's 3 types. There's a property, a command, and telemetry. So properties can be a setting of a device. Command is an action that gets executed on the device. Telemetry is the data that you want to do some sort of action on. So the information that's important to you, like temperature, humidity, and things like that. Right. So something else that's part of a template within IoT Central is views. So you can visualize the device as well. It has a really cool feature called generate views. So what I'm going to do here is generate and be lazy, generate a view, and it does a really good job of it. So it takes all the telemetry and then it puts into a dashboard all the different telemetry into different graphs and different aggregations and so forth. You can edit these, you can manually drag and drop and create your own dashboards too. Okay, for these templates to be useful, they need to be published. So published is releasing the template. You can also version these templates and publish different versions of the templates as well. So I'm going to publish this. So let's go. We're going to publish. And if you look at the device template as like a blueprint of a device, when you create a device, you're creating an instance or a manifestation of that device. So what I'm going to do now is create a real device that's an environmental monitor. So this is going to be my office environment monitor, and I'm going to create it. So what you'll be seeing here is it's waiting for data, which means there's no data or there's no device plugged into this. So I'm going to connect my Python application to this. So one of the important aspects of Azure IoT is security. It's often an afterthought in IoT, but what you're seeing here is actually identity of a device. So Azure IoT gives devices identity and also has authentication as well. So what we have here is a device ID, which is the ID of the device. I'm going to go to my environmental monitor. I'm going to add the device ID to the code. I'm going to add the key as well. Of course, this is how it authenticates with IoT Central. So I'm going to save that and let's run it. Okay, so I've changed the device to actually match the identity that's provided within IoT Central, and I've run it. So let's see what happens. Okay, we've got the device. The device is working. We're getting some telemetry. So if I had to go into IoT Central and go look at raw data, we're getting some telemetry coming in, which is pretty cool. If you notice, these are the fields that's been defined within the template, and it's really just a JSON object that's coming in with properties that says humidity and a number, light and a number, and so forth. So if I go to the overview, my nice visualization is starting to populate. It will take a little bit of time for some of these to populate because some of them are averages and things like that. So when it settles down, this will start populating quite nicely. But it's already looking quite nice. Okay, so let me go to another device that I've already created, one called a switch gateway. So what I have here, this is something that can turn a device on and turn a device off. So this also represents that Node-RED gateway, which does routing to devices within my network. So if I had to go here, and it's a command, so it's going to execute something, and this command takes in a parameter, so called device name. So my light, my grow light on my auto waterer is called son of light on the network, and if I had to run this, it's going to send a command to the MQTT server, and it's not going to work because it's case sensitive. Do that again. So there we go. We've got the light functioning. So the light switched on. Hopefully everyone can see that. I can go over here. I can switch the light off. I've also got other devices connected as well. So I could switch on the aircon as well, which will switch on the aircon. I can also switch off the aircon as well. This is the Tasmata as admin. Right, so I could go, well, let's switch the aircon off, and the aircon is switching off, so this thing should update very soon. There we go, and it's off. So you can switch things like this. But how is that working? So if I had to go now and go look at my gateway. Remember I said the gateway is defined in Node-RED. So Node-RED is also a low-code flow diagramming application. It's also really nice for event-driven applications. And what we have here is a connector that's connecting to Azure IoT, and it's got a device ID and an identity and a key and all those type of things that we were looking at before for the Python application. What's happening here is it's been configured with two methods: turn gateway device on, turn gateway device off. So it's got two methods that can be called. And when its command gets triggered from IoT Central, a message will flow out of here, and I've got a switch here, which is like an if statement. And if the method name that's coming in is turn gateway device on, follow path 1. If it's turn gateway device off, follow path 2. So path 1 and path 2 is these two paths over here. So if I look at path 1, what's happening here is it's formulating a new message with the topic of house, or prefix of house. House is the prefix for my home network. And what we see here is a payload. This payload is the parameter that I'm typing in here into device names. So the payload goes through from the command all the way through here, and then what we've got here is we're building up a topic that says house, and then device name, and then the command. And this is the Tasmata Sonoff device that says, well, if the command is power 1 and the payload is on, it's switch it on. In other words, power it on. And if I look at the other flow, it's basically exactly the same. It's basically power this device, which is a parameter, power it off, and it switches it off. So this flows into this component here, which is the MQTT server, which then delivers it based on that topic to the right device. And of course, the light switches on and off, which is pretty cool. Right. So that's a command working within IoT Central. So if I had to go now and go to Power Automate. So Power Automate, if you see flow.microsoft.com, the old name was Microsoft Flow, so it is a little bit confusing, but this is Power Automate. I've already got two flows configured. If I go to the flow and have a look at how it's set up, this is turn gateway device on. So it's triggered by a power app. So we're going to get to connect this to a power app very soon. And it's got, you can have multi-step flows. So step 1 here is execute a device command. This is coming from what's known as the IoT Central connector. It's a V3 connector, and you can call different functions on that connector as well. This is executing a device command, which we saw in IoT Central. You can specify the application name. You can specify the identity of the gateway, which is this device ID. You can then specify the template, which is the home office gateway, which depicts how that Node-RED implementation works. And what we're going to do here is the command is turn gateway device on, and we can specify the device name parameter as something we can ask. So in other words, it's a parameter that's going to be asked within Power Apps. And we've got a very similar or exactly the same flow happening for on and off. So let's hook this up to a Power App Canvas app. And every app to trigger something needs a button. So let's put a button down. So I'm going to say, well, switch. Let's go switch grow light on. So I've got a switch grow light button. And we can say, well, let's do an action on that button. Let's go power automate. I'm going to go turn the gateway device on. So here we go. And what you've noticed here is created up the top here. It's created in the formula bar, the command that's going to be run. And I can pass that a parameter. So I can say on or light parameter that I want to push through. And what I could then do is I could say, well, let's test this to see if this button works. And we've clicked on it. And we've got some light action happening. Woohoo! Then what we need to install, put a button that switches off. So let's go. We can go, well, switch grow light off. Okay, cool. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to call power automate off, and then it's going to give me a parameter here. So I can say on, off, minus light, and that's going to now switch it off. So I can just switch it off, right? Okay, so I've now got two buttons that calls two power automate flows. So what we saw is that power automate is using the connector, but what we could also do is use our Power App with a connector as well. So we can use exactly the same connector within our Power App. I can add it in. And what I want to do now is maybe show some telemetry. So I'm going to insert what would be a good component, a label. We're going to show some telemetry in a label. And if I had to go in here and start typing, you notice it starts with like an IntelliSense type pop-up here with the different commands I can get on within this connector. So the command that I actually want is this devices get component telemetry value, which is asking IoT Central for a telemetry value from a component. Now the API is a bit weird, so I'm going to get this wrong. So I'm going to copy paste this so that you don't have to watch me debug this. So I'm going to paste this down here. And what this is devices get component telemetry value. It takes in a device ID. It takes in a component name, telemetry value. So in this case, we're going to display temperature. This is the application ID. And this interesting piece of definition is how it gets it from the template. Right, so something to just remember, everything that comes from IoT Central is dynamic, which means that whatever you model in those templates can return any data in any format. So seeing it's dynamic, Power Apps doesn't really support dynamic. However, there's a preview feature that's been added that you need to enable in the settings for your application called Dynamic Schema, and also enhanced formula bar. When you do that, you'll have this little capture schema here, which if you click on it, will interrogate this method's output and give us the right return types. So what I'm going to do is, one of the things I need here is the identity of our device. That is not the right identity. So what I'm going to go here is go to my office monitor. I'm going to go and yes, I want to go grab the device ID. I'm going to go back to Power Apps and I want to put that in. Now I'm going to click on this capture schema button, which is now going to interrogate this method, and what I should be able to get is now value out of it. If I didn't have this capture schema, it wouldn't know what to do with this method. So I'm going to say value here. If I go back to my code, I should now see the telemetry coming through, which is temperature. The API is a little bit weird, but you do get used to it, things like that. Right, so what we've got is the ability to switch things on and off. We get the ability to have some telemetry. What we don't have is time to make this a pretty UI, so I'm going to move along now. But you get the idea on how that works. Right, so I'm going to go back to IoT Central. What we can do as well is we can set up things known as rules within IoT Central. So a rule is when some conditions are met, actions are run. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to say a low light rule, and what we're going to have is some sort of rule that's applied when the light is low. So I'm going to say, well, let's ask the Pimoroni environment monitor, because it has light in it, so that's probably a good thing to do. I'm going to say, well, the time aggregation, so if it's aggregated for 10 minutes, the light is, or the average light is less than, and this light is measured in lux, so probably 100 is good to know that it's dark enough to need to switch on something like a grow light for plants. So I'm going to make that 100. And let me save this. Now, you can have one condition, you can have many conditions. And when these conditions are met, an action gets fired. So you can choose email, webhooks, and things like that. Power Automate seems like a good option. This shows you how to do it. But if I had to go to Power Automate, I could say, well, new flow. I'm going to make an automated cloud flow. I'm also going to call this maybe low light flow. And then it needs to have a trigger of some sort. So I can say, well, I'm going to go with IoT Central v3, which is a connector again. The connector is very versatile. I'm going to create a flow with that. So now when this rule is fired, it's going to execute something. So I'm going to get this rule from the application. This is my IoT Central application. I'm going to say, well, I want that low light rule that I created. And then the next step is what I'm going to execute. And this is the action. So let's execute again using this connector. So what I want to do is when that rule is met, so in other words, low light, I want to switch on the light. So I can say, well, I want to run the device command. I'm going to say, well, the application is my home automation demo. My device template is going to be the gateway, because I want to execute on that device on my gateway. And I'm going to say, well, the component is that, and the command I want to set is turn gateway device on. and it's going to ask me now for the device name. So I can just say Sonoff minus light, which is going to switch on that specific light. Okay. Right. So now I just need the device ID of my gateway. So let me go back and grab that. There's my gateway. Get its identity. Let's grab that. Go back here. Cool. That looks about right. Okay, cool. We save that. Okay, so now what's going to happen if there's low light, it's going to switch on my grow light. And of course, we can have another rule that maybe goes, if the light is bright, we can switch it off. So we can make things like that. So this is going to fire when it's aggregated for 10 minutes and that it's less than 100 lux. Okay, so we still have a little bit of time. So what I want to show you as well is we have our automated plant grower here, which has 4 plants that can support. It has 4 pumps and not 4 pumps, 1 pump, 4 relays to let the water flow and pump the water to the 4 plants. It also has 4 moisture sensors as well. So what we see here is all the moisture, and you can make some really pretty dashboards with this. But what I want to show you is the analytics. Seeing that this has been running for a while, I can do analytics on it. So I can say, well, moisture 1, moisture 2, moisture 3, and moisture 4. I want to group it by the device ID, and let's analyze that. So when you do an analyze, you can basically look over long periods of time. You can also compare devices together. I've grouped by device ID. Unfortunately, I only got 1 device set up at the moment, so it's basically grouping by 1 device. But what we can see over a long period of time is the moisture decreased, and then spiked again when the pumps ran, and it's decreased and decreased. Something that's also interesting to note here is there's some dead dotted line space here. It's also quite sufficiently a load shedding detector as well, because this plant is not on a UPS, so of course that's when there was load shedding as well. Yeah, this is really cool for getting up and running quickly with IoT solutions, and gives you really nice visualizations. Okay, right, so let's go back to our slides. Thank you very much for attending. I hope it was useful. There's resources where you can go read up on all this stuff. I've also put together a blog in this explorationspace.co.za blog on everything that's been shown here. If you want to contact me, there's my contact details there. And is there any questions? If there's no questions, have a great day, but hopefully I'll have some questions to answer. But thank you very much for attending.